Hey everybody, doing a little bit of a different time today for our Viive Values, but nonetheless it's going to be a great conversation and we are going to learn lots. So let's get our guest added on and we will dive in. Here we go. To episode 8. How incredible is that? My goodness, we are just getting through this year so quickly. I cannot believe it. Oh, I think he's there. Hey, Brian.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Are you able to tilt your camera so we can see your face better?
Yes. Just a moment.
Awesome. Eh,
How's that? Oh, hang on.
No, you definitely have to have it. You want it to stay sort of right there. Don't move it.
Okay.
Then we get the best view.
Okay.
There we go. Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Brian. I appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
Awesome. So let me just tell everyone a little bit about you. So everybody, this is Brian Cowan. Say hi, Brian.
There.
Awesome. Brian is a realtor with Keller Williams Empowered Realty, and his focus is working with downsizing seniors with his real estate practice called Transition with Ease. He's a seniors real estate specialist, a designation that equips him with the tools and resources needed to best guide our aging population on their next move. And as we get into the spring real estate market here, this is the time to be having this conversation, to be talking about ways that estate season. So older, especially if they feel like they're currently perfectly able to afford and manage the homes that they are in right now.
Yeah, certainly. Great question. One of the biggest things is upkeep, right? So keeping the property in shape to live in it, safe and sound. Safety is always our number one priority, and making sure that the environment is well kept. There's no safety hazards, and of course, keeping it so that the elements don't come in, bills are paid, things don't fall behind. Owning a house is a lot of work, sometimes a job in itself, and in some cases that's why buildings hire property managers, because there's lots to do when it comes to taking care of a property.
Mhm.
Upkeep and maintenance would probably be number one. The second thing, might be maybe the area's just changed, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a time. Maybe you've been there for 30 or 40 years. Times changed. Maybe they're starting to build, in places that have always been sort of, grassland and greenland where you walked your dog, and
Hmm.
the community is just not what it used to be when you moved in,
Yeah.
many, right? Those would probably be, some of the reasons.
Hmm.
Um, I- yeah.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of times people assume, especially people who've been in a home for many decades, they no longer have a mortgage and they're like, this is fine. Like, I mean, the biggest expense that I have in my life right now is my mortgage, which I'm sure a lot of millennials and Gen X would say. That's the most money we are giving away to one entity, is to our house. So when we pay off our house, it's like a windfall, right? Which is really exciting. But a lot of people pay off their house prior to retiring and they don't really realize that once you retire, you have your CPP and OAS and potentially an employer's pension, not always guaranteed. You're on a fixed income. And so if anything changes about with regards to the house, with maintenance, upkeep, property taxes, you don't have an extra influx of cash to be able to support you through that process. So sometimes it's almost better to sell the house, have that big nest egg of money saved aside as you then progress through the next many decades of your life.
That's right. And taking the proceeds of the sale to support, sustain the lifestyle that you want or that you might need.
Mhm. Exactly. I mean, there's definitely, my grandma always used to say that she was going out of her house feet first. And she did. But not without a lot of like stress and grief on the family, unfortunately. Love you, grandma. Sorry, but it was. And my grandpa didn't. Actually, he did not get to fulfill that desire that he had as well, but my grandma did. But like that's a mentality that a lot of the aging population has is I have worked incredibly hard. I have this house. This is where I'm most comfortable. So I will die and I will be taken out of this home when I die, and that's how it's going to work. But what they don't realize is that by sticking to that very strict mentality, it can really restrict, in some instances, a lot of the joy and purpose they have in those later years of life because they're just so stressed out in their own surroundings.
Yeah, 100%.
Hmm.
100%. There's like I said, there's lots to take care of when you own a home.
Hmm.
Um, Financially speaking, even though they might be perfectly, sound for the upkeep, payments, and property taxes, um, is it really what's best for them? Right? Do they have the
Hmm.
social opportunities that they might need? Do they have other opportunities that they may not get if they consider downsizing to change that lifestyle and be more, spend the time more on friends and family and other things they could be doing instead
Yeah.
of cleaning the house
Hmm.
or looking up the roof or the windows or all the things that all the homeowners have to do regardless of whether they like it or not, right?
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Now, a lot of people might say, okay, Mallory, well, I want to age in place and I'm going to do it no matter what you and Brian say right now. So why can't I just go ahead and modify my home? And I don't care what it sells for after I'm dead. That doesn't matter to me. So I'm just going to modify the heck out of my home so that I can age here safely and I'm going to pay for at-home care. So why do you think that is a good idea or maybe isn't a good idea for our aging population?
So certainly, I mean, of course, nobody's gonna, change your mind if you don't want to move, and
Yeah.
that's perfectly okay. My role is to help arm you with the tools and knowledge to make the most appropriate decisions.
Hmm.
So if that means telling you maybe what your property is worth, and then, then you decide
Hmm.
if that's something you're looking to do to then figure out, okay, can I actually sell my property? Maybe downsize, still own a house, maybe a smaller house, maybe it's a condo,
Hmm.
but then use those funds that I've just realized, which maybe weren't part of my retirement plan when I made this, retirement plan 30, 40 years ago, and use those funds to help pay for
Right.
the home
Hmm.
care that I need today or maybe in the future,
Hmm.
right? So sort of a a hand in hand synergistic approach where definitely if you don't want to move, don't. But maybe there's other benefits that you might not be considering,
Hmm.
right? So
Exactly. And I think unfortunately, a lot of times people move too late. And so they don't actually get to reap the benefits of that, like the benefits of having extra money to go do things with,
yeah,
right? I mean, we definitely, as people live longer and longer, and the cost of care will only increase more in the next 2 decades as the boomers themselves get into that age bracket of requiring care. We're just going to need so much more money. I say that to my friends all the time. We need so much money to get old. Like, we are not ready for this. But for those who are actually in their active aging years now, sometimes leaving your home, 5, 10 years before you thought you would is actually better. It's better for your mental health. It's better for your financial health. It actually allows you to kind of set yourself up better for those more active aging years in the later years of life. But it's a hard nut to crack. It's hard to convince someone to leave their home when it's been their plan their whole life to just live out their years in that house. It's hard to show them the benefits of that sometimes. Unfortunately, especially in our post-COVID society, right, where retirement homes and nursing homes got a very bad rap during that time, and it just makes people feel so insecure about leaving their home where they feel safe right now.
but yeah, and especially as humans, human nature is, we don't like change,
No.
even though we know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We just don't like change. We like comfort. We like comfort, and we don't like being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And any change is comfortable majority of the time. And in in this particular, scope of conversation, it certainly is an uncomfortable thing to get up and to start living your life in a
Mhm.
new environment.
Definitely.
But that is for the right reasons, and if and when time comes to have that conversation, the support's there to take you there.
Mhm. Now, if people are on board, let's say we've got some listeners who are like, you know what, okay, I'm going to downsize. What does that look like for them? Because yes, they could downsize to a smaller house or condo, like you said, right? They could also not buy, they could downsize to a rental. They could move into an independent living facility. There's a lot of options there. But when it comes to the actual act of, oh my gosh, I've lived in this house 30 years and I need to get ready, like emotionally, financially, and just like logistically with this house for me to downsize. What does that look like for your clients when they're ready to take that big leap and transition?
It starts with a conversation, right? It starts with, opening up the dialogue, and sometimes it can take many, many months to actually reach that
Hmm.
point of, yeah, yeah, let's start exploring new options of where I'm going to go. Now, sometimes I come into the picture when they've decided where to go,
Right.
and they feel overwhelmed. They just don't know where to start,
Hmm.
and they just want one point of contact to handle the entire process.
Right.
The real estate, everything else that happens in between that you're going to need, like movers and lawyers and
Hmm.
professional, organizers and packing and decluttering and unpacking and really everything else that goes with the moving side,
Hmm.
because they have been in so long, and it's just an entire task that they feel like, oh
Yeah.
my, where am I going to start? What am I going to do? Um, so once they reach that stage, that's usually where sort of I um, make my biggest impact, I'll say,
Hmm.
is because if they don't want to or don't really care to hire their own, movers, packers, real estate agent, this, that, or the other, for the entire journey, that's something they can streamline through myself if that's, the kind of support they're looking for. So it's
Hmm.
available to, not the only option, but it's something that is available.
That's really great because I think that, as you said, if people haven't experienced a move in many decades, and they're obviously much older than they were 3 or 4 decades ago, that can be a really daunting idea. They've accumulated so much stuff, right? We hold on to so much stuff. I mean, I'm a hardcore purger, so maybe not me, but most people hold on to so much stuff. And a lot of it is sentimental. And a lot of times they feel like they shouldn't get rid of things or they should. And I know there are a lot of excellent organizations in Ontario, ones that we've partnered with, no doubt ones you partnered with, that really come in and not only do the packing, the purging, the selling, all of that, but they take the time to get to know you, the client, and learn what's important to you and help you through that process because it's an emotional process purging your belongings or deciding where things are going to go. So it's great that there are resources, and I am a big fan in my own life when financially possible and with clients to be like, please just throw money at this problem. Like it's going to make life better. And yeah, it sucks to drop $1,000 for somebody to pack your house up or whatever. But if it means that you are less stressed and you're able to focus on other elements of this transition, then that's actually worth it. That $1,000 is so worth it. So please just go ahead and do it. So I think it's important for people to know that you don't have to do everything on your own. Find a great realtor like you, Brian, who has so many contacts, who's then able to really help with that transition, all elements of it.
Certainly. One of the other things that I thought I should mention is one of the biggest stressors is, what do I do with the stuff that I'm not taking with us or with,
Yeah.
right? Where's it going to go? Can I donate it? Can I sell it? Who do I call? Can I call this company or this company, or is it, more of a specialty item where we need to get, certain auction houses involved? From being in that industry prior to being in this business, that's something I also help to coordinate or facilitate for the client, because they may not know who one of the three best or most able companies are to help them with their
Hmm.
content. And so what I do is I just help direct them in the right direction,
Hmm.
just to operate on a more efficient basis, to make sure that they know all the facts before they decide which third party company to go ahead with in terms of dealing with the stuff, right?
Hmm.
Um, I saw it all the time when I was in that business. I have a 4,000 square foot house worth of stuff. They're moving to a 1,500 square foot townhouse. What do I do with it? Where's it all going to go?
Hmm.
Kind of a thing, right? So that's
Yeah.
something built into the support as well, just as sort of an added value, because I realize there's a huge gap for that needed support, and so
Hmm.
just coming from that angle helps them move forward, maybe quicker, maybe a little easier, and certainly with less stress, so they don't have to figure it out all themselves.
Yeah. That's incredible. Now we're in April, and April 16th is Advanced Care Planning Day, which we talk a lot about here at Viive. And so tell us a little bit about how advanced care planning intersects with the real estate market. I feel like some people will be like, how do those two things go together? But how do people balance the need for planning ahead from a medical perspective, which is really what advanced care planning is, with the ups and downs of the housing market? How are those two things kind of coming together for people?
So I have this conversation all the time, and the thing that matters at the end of the day is that you're making your actions based on your needs.
Hmm.
It's impossible to time the market because we don't know. I mean, nobody has a crystal ball, and nobody knows what's going to happen.
Hmm.
Politically speaking, economically
Yeah.
speaking, in the next day, 3 days, or even 3 months.
Yeah.
Um, and hindsight is always 2020, and looking ahead is not.
Hmm.
But what you can plan for is the steps that you may need to take or consider when time comes to start to consider selling or consider the advanced care planning part, of who you might want to engage, what team you want to have with you, when you're at that stage, so that you
Hmm.
can do that the easiest way possible.
Yeah.
Um, Timing the market again is very difficult, but if we do it based on your needs,
Hmm.
it becomes easier to swallow that pill and say, hey, yeah, you know what? It's time to sell, even though I might get X number of dollars less, X number of dollars more in, say, 2 or 3 months.
Hmm.
It doesn't really matter because you know what? I've had my home for 30 years. I've realized this
Yeah.
equity that I have accounted for anyways. So whether I
Hmm.
get 5,000 or $10,000 more isn't going to be the deal breaker or deal maker for me, right? As a seller.
100%. That's actually how we got the house that my husband and I are in, is they needed to close in 5 weeks because of an injury that happened to the husband. No one else was willing to close in 5 weeks. We got considerably, I mean, it was during 2021 when everyone paid way more for housing than they should have, but we paid way less than I know other offers they ended up getting. And it was because we were willing to meet their needs and their schedule. It was chaos for us, but hey, we were in our 30s. We had the energy to plow through and figure it out. But at the end of the day, I mean, they were the original owners of this home from the 80s. They had more than realized what had been put into it initially. So although it would have been nice to maybe have another $150,000, at that point, it was like, what's the value of getting out to a safer, more secure place for us, as opposed to having that money, which yeah, would have been great, but sometimes you just have to make those difficult choices in order to ensure that you are safe. And as you pointed out, yeah, like they more than made their money on the sale of this house, that's for sure. And a lot of people do as well.
Exactly.
Now, when leaving the family home behind, I mean, this is a very difficult process for not just the people who bought the house, so for mom and dad or aunt and uncle or whatever, but for the entire family. This is a big financial change, but also emotional change. And it's going to impact not just the owners, but sort of ricochet out to the whole family. So, how can people navigate the process of saying goodbye to a longtime home with so many beautiful memories?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, spend the time that you can while you still have the property or while the property is still there, and just think about it as a chapter, right?
Hmm.
Had this chapter, you've enjoyed, the time there with family and friends and everybody else. You've made great memories that you'll have forever. And of course, take pictures if you want. And if the listing is on MLS, you'll have professionally taken pictures on online and
Hmm.
available anyhow. But think about it as a new chapter, as the next chapter, as this chapter sort of comes to a close. The new chapter, for the right reasons, is starting, and so
Hmm.
some realizing that and starting to think about it in that sense helps homeowners or family members get over the oh my gosh, I can't believe time has come,
Hmm.
and it's been in the family for years, and just thinking about it as a new phase.
Hmm.
I would say helps most sort of get over um, the sad feelings about getting the property sold.
Exactly. I like that idea of it being a new chapter in your life because it's funny, we don't get as upset when we move in our 30s or 40s or even 50s, right? We kind of go, yeah, we're doing this new exciting thing. We're moving here because of X, Y, and Z. But it's different, I think, when when you sell your home, when you're, past the age of 65. I think people think that by getting rid of their family home, that they're acknowledging their own mortality in some ways as well too, right? I'm going into this next chapter, this next phase, which is my last chapter, my last phase, and so there can be a negative connotation to it. But I mean, as I like to say, I mean, we're all going to die. It's going to happen. So, right, you might as well just, move through those emotions and realize that you get to go into this next incredible chapter. There have been many people who have not made it there, and you get to. And that's really exciting that you get to go and experience something new. The more and more retirement homes I tour, the more I'll be walking through and I'll just be like, oh my God, goal. Like, this is where I want to live one day. I want to make enough money to sell my home and live in these places. Like, that's what I want because they're wonderful and you don't have to think about anything. I want that for myself now. So there's so many opportunities out there. And unfortunately, to experience a lot of those opportunities, it means saying goodbye to the largest asset that you have in your estate, which is your family home. But at the end of the day, it's a home and memories were made here, but memories will stay. You don't need the tangible house itself to keep those with you and with your family. Um, Brian, it's been really great to chat with you, and I appreciate you taking time out. I know you were busy today with some training just to get yourself even more ready and prepared to help our aging population, which is incredible. But thank you so much for carving some time out and being a part of Viive Values. We really appreciate it.
For having me.
Wonderful. Everybody, tune in for May and June. We only have two more episodes left this season, so be sure to check. We'll have some posts out, and we will connect again soon and chat on some really incredible